Now, if you don't think this song is the greatest song ever, I will fight you. That's no lie.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Watt, and welcome to Team Iraq News. I'm Vanessa Brown, and I'm going to share some information with you about Iraq. For those of you who don't know much about this country, Iraq is mostly dry with cool winters and hot cloudless summers. The northern mountainous regions of this country along the Iranian and Turkish borders experience cold winters with occasionally heavy snows which melt in the spring and cause extensive flooding in the central and southern regions. As far as terrain is concerned, Iraq is mostly broad plains with reedy marshes along the Iranian borders. The size of Iraq is slightly more than twice the size of Idaho, with a coastline of 58 kilometers. A few basic statistics are that Iraq has a population of about 26 million people. The birth rate in Iraq is about 1.9%, and the death rate is about 5.3%. Infant mortality rate in Iraq is about 48, and the average life expectancy of the people in Iraq is about 69 years old. Iraq's literacy rate is based on the population in Iraq 15 years of age and older who can read and write, and that rate is only at about 40%. The GDP per capita is about $3,400, and oil is a major factor in Iraq. Iraq produces 2.9 billion BBL per day in oil, and it also exports about 1.4 million BBL per day. Major religions in Iraq are Muslim and Christian. The Muslim percentage is about 97, and within that 97%, about 60 to 65 are Shia, and about 32 to 37% are Sunni. The leftover 3% is basically Christian and whatever else. Iraq was allowed to export limited amounts of oil in exchange for food, medicine, and infrastructure spare parts. Per capita food imports increased significantly, while medical supplies and healthcare services steadily improved. The military victory of the U.S.-led coalition in March of 2003 resulted in the shutdown of much of the central economic administrative structure. Attacks on key economic facilities, especially oil pipelines and infrastructure, have prevented Iraq from reaching projected export volumes. Despite the damage, total government income has been higher than anticipated due to high oil prices. Well, good to know. So, now we are going to go over to our reporter, Christina Diaz, who is live interviewing an Iraqi citizen. So over to you, Christina.
Thank you, Vanessa. Even though Prime Minister Ibrahim Jafari is a Shiite himself, there are many Shiite citizens and politicians that are asking to step down from his position. And not only does the majority of the citizens here want him to step down, but even the President of the United States, George W. Bush himself, also messaged a Shia alliance leader that he hopes Jafari steps down. I'm here with Mohammed Kashoui. Mr. Kashoui, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
So why do you think Jafari has lost his key supporters?
I think he lost his key supporters because he was unable to bring a new government. We need a new democratic government that can bring us to peace. But Jafari failed to bring peace to us. He should step down.
Do you think the public safety has been affected since Jafari has been in office?
Yes, me and my family are spending most of the time inside the house because it's dangerous outside. The bombings are continuing and I think it's not safety at all. The number of bombing isn't decreasing and apparently Jafari is doing nothing to prevent this.
How do you feel about Jafari's treatment to the Kurdish community in Kirkuk?
I am a Kurd and my brother lives in Kirkuk. I feel that Jafari failed to restore the Kurdish community that was subjected to ethnic cleansing under Saddam Hussein's reign. I think it's ridiculous that Jafari is trying to get control of the police force. Jafari's militia group has been arresting people illegally, and if Jafari gets control of the police force, this country will go back to a dictatorship and it will be chaos.
So obviously you're against Jafari's position in office. What do you think the public should do to get Jafari to step down?
I think what we're doing right now is all we can do at this point, and all we're doing is protesting and let our opinions be heard. And I'm willing to attend as many protests as needed.
Jafari said, quote, "I wake up in the morning and one thing that I worry about is maybe I may not have done my best for my people. I try always to do my very, very best, and if I don't strive the hardest, this is what worries me." Do you believe Jafari when he says this?
Well, I see the man trying, and I guess he is doing his best, but his best isn't showing any good results for this country. So I think he should let other people try to do a better job.
Okay. This is another quote by Jafari. "They say the elections will not happen, and they did. They say the Constitution will not be written, but they were. Doesn't this show that he has made some improvements for Iraq?"
Well, he did make some improvements for Iraq, but I think that he failed to improve other conflicts that is in Iraq right now. So I think he's not suitable for the position.
Well, thank you. Mohammed Khashoggi is just one of the many citizens and politicians that are against Jafari's position as Prime Minister. There have been many riots, and there will be more to come as long as the people don't get what they want. Back to you.
What is it? Why do you get more water? Because they like... I'm sorry, excuse me. So, thank you, Christina. Iraqis have been celebrating Ashura, the 7th century martyrdom of Imam Hussein, and it concluded without a single major bloodshed attack. For the Shiites, Hussein serves as a symbol. He fought for their religion and against oppression. Even the Shiite-led government kept the electricity on for 24 hours on Najaf and Karbala to comfort the pilgrims. Ashura celebrations were largely outlawed under the Sunni-led dictatorship by Saddam Hussein, who generally oppressed and brutalized the country's Shiite majority. However, this is the first celebration since the March 2003 U.S.-led invasion without any terrorist attacks. 2 million people gathered around the shrines of Imam Hussein, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, in Karbala, a city less than 100 miles away from Baghdad. The majority of Shiites in Iraq marched, beat drums, and chanted slogans in memory of Hussein. Imam Hussein was killed in 680 in a succession battle that solidified the split between Sunnis and Shiites. Suicide bombing killed 180 people in 2004 and 50 people last year. The relatively peaceful proceedings were accredited to the better-trained Iraq security forces. Sunni Arab leaders said insurgents refrained from attacks for fear of sabotaging negotiations for power sharing in the new government. Even though this was a peaceful event for the Iraqis, attacks continued to occur almost monthly. A suicide bombing in Karbala killed dozens. Also, a suicide bomber celebrating Ashura killed 2 Iraqi soldiers and 3 civilians at a joint U.S.-Iraqi checkpoint. It's pretty sad. That is pretty sad. But I'm glad to hear about the peace. Peace is better. And you know what? Thanks to the new Shiite government, Iraq has been capable of celebrating Ashura peacefully. This is obviously a step forward. Definitely. So, now, we're going to go over to our reporter, John Lee, who is live at the streets of Baghdad. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Cece. Mishan al-Jabari, oil minister and the member of the parliament in Iraq, was recently subjected for pocketing millions of dollars from the oil industry. The government issued an arrest warrant, but he fled in December to Syria. This affected a lot of strategic infrastructure battalions. The battalions are the group of Iraqi units in charge of defending the oil pipelines. The fact that there is corruption leaves the question whether the country is stable or not. I have a pre-recorded video with an interview with an Iraqi politician, Leah Samari. I'm here with Leah Samari, a member of the Iraqi parliament. Thank you for having us here today. What did you think of the incident?
I think that the incident was very tragic, but I'm a strong believer in a democratic government for the Iraqi government, and I feel like this is a big step towards that goal.
Do you think there are corruption in other parts of the government too?
Well, I would hope there isn't, but if there is, I'm sure the parliament, along with the police force, will be able to catch these criminals and bring them to justice.
So, what do you think the effect of this incident will be?
I think that this incident has already affected a lot of people, especially all the members that are working in the oil industries and their families, but I think also as a whole, this has affected the Iraqi government and the economy.
Thank you. Now I'm here live in the streets of Baghdad with the wife of a battalion who was affected by Al-Jabari's crime. How did you feel when you heard about the Al-Jabari's crime?
I felt very betrayed about what he did because I felt like the same man that employed my husband has now taken away our money. You know, sometimes we couldn't eat because we didn't have enough money, and I just feel very betrayed by him and what he has done to everyone.
Were you aware of his actions?
No, I was not aware until the warrant for his arrest was issued, and by then he already had fled, and I was very upset because I think that he needs to be brought to justice for everyone.
Thank you. The government thinks that Jabari had given the money he pocketed to the Iraqi insurgent groups who are opposing the current government. Facing many problems and corruption, the question remains whether Iraq will be able to keep a stable government. Back to you, Cece.
Again, why do you have more water than me? Is it really that big of a deal? Actually, it is. Okay, fine. Here you go. Thank you, John. These events have been monumental to the current history of Iraq. Yes, that's true. Let's recap. Well, the current Prime Minister of Iraq, Abram Jafari, was elected, and he's a Shiite Muslim. Citizens of Iraq, including the Shiites, are against him, asking him to step down from his Prime Minister position. The Kurds and the Sunni Muslims aren't supporting Jafari and are continuously urging him to resign. The Shiite Muslims, as for the future of Iraq, announced that if Jafari doesn't get the support of the Kurds and the Sunnis, the Shiites will also be against Jafari to help the Iraqi government. Even the President of the United States messaged a Shiite alliance leader that he hopes Jafari steps down. I think the fact that the Shiites are willing to go against the Prime Minister and go with the Kurds as well as the Sunnis is really a good idea for Iraq, don't you? Oh, for sure. And you know what? What's that? I think Jafari should step down, like definitely, for the good of Iraq. Well, if that's what you think. Anyways, back to your Shura. Iraq has definitely taken a big step forward in the Shiite celebration since it was outlawed, under Saddam Hussein's leadership. And the fact that there's been so little bloodshed ensures that Iraq is really moving in the right direction. The lack of deaths at this religious celebration held at Karbala is a great improvement compared to the hundreds of deaths that occurred in the last 2 years. I think it's really important to know that this celebration deeply affects those who partake in it. I mean, these pilgrims walk for days to Karbala eating rice and taking shelter in tents along the route by well-wishers. This is true. Custom men, actually, on horseback, even stage elaborate reenactment of Hussein's martyrdom in passionate plays called Tazia. Well, or something of the sort. That sounds kind of fun, and, you know, it's really artsy. It does sound kind of artsy. Kind of neat. But on a more serious note, we found research that fervent mourners tend to beat themselves, some striking their heads with swords and drawing blood. It's not funny. It's a serious issue. There's blood drawn. Wow, that's ridiculous. That's very sad, actually. You know, they're so passionate. I kind of respect it. They do seem very passionate about that. They know what they want. All right. Well, as we know, Iraq is a leading oil producer, and recent investigations, as we learned in John's interview, thank you, John. Yeah, thank you, John, about that. Sunni Arab member of the Iraq's transitional parliament has been linked to widespread corruption in the oil industry. That's a big deal. That is a big deal, definitely. We learned that that guy, Jabari, he had fled from Iraq shortly after this incident, and it was in December of 2005. He was believed to be hiding in Syria. Jabari allegedly had invented hundreds of fictitious members of the battalions and pocketed their salaries. And he's also thought to have scammed up to 5/6 of the money he requested to provide the battalions with food. Iraqi officials said they didn't know precisely how much money he had embezzled, but they estimated that Jabari had taken somewhere in the millions. Millions. That's a lot of money. Millions. Well, this guy is sure in some trouble. Yes, and you know what, Cece, I almost hate to say it, but I believe this is the end of our segment. I believe you're right, Vanessa. Well, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Team Iraq News. You stay classy, LA. Mostly, thank you for tuning in. You stay classy, Ellie. I'm taking my water back. Thank you for tuning in. Stay classy. Do you mind just talking through like...
Dude, I'm recording. Dude, I'm zooming in and out when I'm recording.
I couldn't do that.
Are you retarded?
No. Well, the current Prime Minister of Iraq, Ibrahim Jafari, was...
Do you think we can retake it? Because I'm totally, like, videotaping it bad.
Okay.
Okay.
John
No, I'm confused.
I felt very betrayed about what Al-Jabari did to myself and my family. I felt like the same man that employed my husband. Are we serious?